Hey everyone, welcome back to PR and Test Drive. Today we've got not one but two E-Classes and they're both in blue. Specifically, the one on my right is the 2019 W213 generation E-Class and the one on my left is the new 2024 W214 generation E-Class. The one on my right is the E53 and the one on my left is a E450. Today we're going to compare these two and see what a 5-year generation gap brings and whether if these improvements and changes are for the better. Let's get started. Starting at the front, both these E-Classes feature very similar design language, but on the new one, the grille is much larger now and the chrome bits within the grille are now silver arrows. It also features a black border around the chrome grille itself, which under the nautical blue metallic color gets hidden quite well, but I'm still not a huge fan of. In terms of lighting, both E-Classes feature standard LED headlights, but instead of the older one where there's two stripes representing it's an E-Class, the new one gets two little swoops underneath the projector. When it comes to the exterior dimensions, the old E-Class and the new E-Class are basically indistinguishable, but in fact, the new W214 has grown just a tiny bit all around, but each dimension it's less than an inch. I would say though that the new E-Class is a little bit more rounded compared to the old one, especially in the trunk area. As for under the body shell, the E53 comes standard with AMG air suspension along with adaptive dampers, whereas the E450 comes standard with the steel springs and optional air suspension along with rear wheel steer. 19-inch rims come standard on the E53 and 18-inch comes standard on the E450, but this has the optional 21-inch rims. Both of these vehicles feature a staggered setup, 245 in the front, 275 in the rear. And the last notable change is that the W214 now comes with pop-out handles. Definitely look cool, but you can decide whether if that's a good thing or not. At the rear, the taillights look very different. The new E450 gets these tri-pointed star as lighting element within the light itself, and the E53, because it's an AMG, gets these prominent quad exhaust tailpipe tips. When it comes to the trunk, both the old generation and the new generation E-Class feature a very similar amount of cargo space, with the caveat that on the new one, there's no longer that little hump on the trunk floor on the inside there, so it's bonus points for practicality. In terms of folding the seats down, both can do it. However, on the old version, you need to first pull the latch and then go over to the door and fold down the seats from that way manually, whereas on the new one, all you gotta do is press this little button and the seats itself fold down. Under the hood, although both E-Classes uses the M256 3-liter inline-6 turbocharged engine and a 48-volt mild hybrid system, the E53 gets an extra electric supercharger, allowing for less turbo lag and a more aggressive tuning overall. The E53 delivers 429 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque, whereas the E450 puts out 375 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. Although both these E-Classes uses 9-speed automatic gearboxes, the one in the E53 is an AMG unit called the SpeedShift TCT 9-speed, which offers more aggressive transmission tuning and more aggressive shift speeds and shift response. Both these E-Classes have all-wheel drive, but the one in the E53, it uses a 4MATIC Plus system, meaning that it has variable torque vectoring and up to 100% power can be delivered to the rear wheels. On the E450, on the other hand, it uses the standard 4MATIC system from Mercedes. If you're wondering if the new W214 E53 shares a similar setup to the old E53, you'd be wrong, because the new E53 has a plug-in hybrid system, meaning that it produces over 600 horsepower. Oh, and while we're at the engine bays, Mercedes has finally moved the windshield washer location to somewhere that's more accessible and more convenient, because on the old one here, it is extremely difficult to fill up your washer fluid without spilling it everywhere. Inside is where you'll find the biggest differences. The new W214 E-Class has screens everywhere, which looks cool and techy, but the old W213 has more wood trim and more physical buttons, which in my opinion looks more classy. I also prefer the steering wheel on this older one because it has more tactile buttons that I can press and feel, and it is painted in silver, which in my opinion looks more premium. In terms of ambient lighting, this W213 already has a lot of them, but the new W214 E-Class turns it up to 11 with a lot of new animations as well. Alright, let's jump into the new E-Class and talk about the screens. Now I've decided to sit in the passenger side because this E-Class has the optional super screen package, meaning that as a passenger, I also get my own screen. Now, Mercedes have made a lot of improvements to the user experience, to the screens, and to the technology. Now, the new MBUX system is snappy most of the time, and the voice assistant is very good. It also allows for wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, unlike the old one, which only had wired Android Auto and wired Apple CarPlay. However, on the cluster side of things, there are less customization options now. In the old E53, you get to choose between different pages in the center portion of the instrument cluster as well as the right dial of the instrument cluster, but now there's only the center portion in this new E-Class that you could customize and change to show different information. I also don't really like this new sport gauge that Mercedes has. I much prefer the older style with the dials. Another thing that might be minute but I find quite annoying are these seat controls. These seat control buttons are now fixed. They offer no tactility to it. It's kind of a touch button where you just kind of press on it and then it just moves the seat. Don't offer any sort of movement within the buttons itself. Additionally, lumbar support and side bolstering support is now adjusted through the screen. There's no buttons on the side of your seat down below that you could adjust it. Lastly, an interesting one is that on the older W213, there is a button on the driver's side door that can adjust the passenger seat adjustments, whereas for this generation, they have removed it. Anyway, let's take the E53 out for a spin and see how different it drives compared to this. As soon as you start driving the E53, you immediately feel that this is a much more exciting powertrain. About 50 horsepower more and no turbo lag thanks to this electric supercharger. This engine feels way more potent and a lot more fun. Not saying that the E450 or the 450 engine is slow by any means. This just is more exciting and more fun, and this soundtrack just sounds very, very good. You also get little burbles and pops when you shift up and down. Oh, nice. Yeah, this is, I prefer this a lot more. The transmission on the E53 is a little faster, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more responsive. However, at low speeds, it's a little bit more jerky at times compared to the 450 where it's just smooth all the time. When it comes to handling, the E53 have sharper turn-ins and have less body roll. And despite having the variable torque distribution 4MATIC Plus system, it feels very, very balanced. It wouldn't swing the tail out or anything like that. It just keeps the car planted and balanced through corners. The E450, on the other hand, have very light steering and definitely feels less sporty. But the ride quality is significantly more comfortable on that one, even though it has 21-inch rims and is running on steel springs. This, on the other hand, although it has the airmatic system, it feels very stiff even on the most comfortable setting. So stiff that I think it's a little bit too stiff for an executive sedan like this. Ooh, nice. In terms of efficiency, even accounting for the power difference, it seems that Mercedes was able to improve over the years in regards to that, because I was able to manage 5.6 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway in the W214 E450, whereas on this W213 E53, I was only able to manage 6.7 liters per 100 kilometers. Now, obviously, both of these cars are extremely efficient on the highway. 6.7 liters with 429 horsepower is ridiculously good, but the new E450 takes it to another level because the mild hybrid system effectively turns it into a hybrid car in eco mode, turning off the engine whenever you are coasting. The E53 also has the engine off coasting feature, but it does it less frequently. The safety tech and driver assistant packages on both cars are excellent, but it's clear that the W214 has made improvements and everything just feels more refined in that aspect. Lane centering tracks lanes better, lane change assist feels more confident, and the automatic park assist just works miles better. If you want to check out the W214 E450 drive review in more detail, feel free to check out our video in the link in the description box. We've done a full review on that car. To sum it all up, Mercedes has created a good evolutionary product using the same recipe with the new W214 E-Class. And although there are a few things that I probably prefer in this older one over the new one, they've made a lot of improvements overall. With the 2019 E53 on the used market being sold at around 50 to 60,000 Canadian dollars, and the E450 that we've tested being priced as spec at a little over $100,000, which would you pick? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.